Have you ever sat in a meeting or a family dinner and felt like your words had absolutely no weight? You have a valid point. You speak politely, but somehow people still brush you aside as if you do not exist. That feeling is frustrating and lonely. Most of us are taught that to gain respect, you must speak louder or win every argument. We tense up to dominate the room because we fear that if we stay silent, we will appear weak. But let me share a secret from the Stoic masters. True power never lives in the noise. It lives in stillness and precision. Words that touch the heart do not do so because they are shouted, but because they come from a soul that does not need to beg to be heard. Imagine you are facing a colleague who always interrupts you in front of the boss. Instead of getting angry to reclaim the floor, you simply keep a steady breath and look them in the eye. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that you should waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be, and instead just be one. Respect is not something you demand from the world. It is something you express through self-control and how you behave when those around you start losing theirs. In this video, I will share 5 Stoic phrases that help you set boundaries and regain respect immediately without raising your voice. Especially the third phrase, it will help you turn the tide in the most stressful moments. If you find these insights helpful, please hit subscribe to join me on the journey of building a strong inner self. Now let us begin with the first phrase to neutralize the ego of others. The first phrase I want to share with you is a powerful tool to calm any conflict before it explodes into a fire. That is, I understand your point, but I do not agree. It sounds simple, but look deep into the psychology behind it. Most real-life arguments do not break down because of a lack of truth, but because of the ego. When you confront someone, their brain immediately shifts into defensive mode. If you start by saying they are wrong, they will stop listening to you and start looking for ways to defend themselves. At that point, the conversation is no longer about finding a solution, but about who will win. But when you say, "I understand your point," you're doing something very few people can do. You neutralize the ego of the other person. You show them that they have been heard. This does not mean you are weak or compromising, but it shows you are someone with enough confidence and tolerance to stand above the pettiness of bickering. It shows you are not afraid of their opinion. Imagine a meeting at the office. A colleague proposes a plan that you know for sure will fail because of major flaws. Instead of staying silent and enduring it or starting a personal attack that makes the atmosphere tense, you take a deep breath and calmly say, "I understand your perspective, but I do not agree with this option." Notice what happens next. Your voice stays firm and your face remains calm. The brief silence after that sentence is when everyone in the room starts looking at you differently. You are not attacking anyone. You are simply setting a limit. You do not apologize for your difference. You simply present it as an objective truth. In Stoic philosophy, we learn to separate personal emotions from reactions. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we always have the right to have no opinion on a matter and keep our souls at peace. When you use this phrase, you are practicing exactly that. You acknowledge the existence of the other person, but do not let them pull you into the maze of negative emotions. This is the first step for you to master any dialogue, giving others space to be heard, but keeping the right to choose your own path for yourself. The second phrase is only 5 words long, but it has the power to stop disrespect as soon as it begins. That is, "I do not find that appropriate." In life, we often encounter awkward situations. Someone makes a rude remark about your appearance, or a friend tells an insensitive joke at a dinner table and expects you to laugh along. The common reaction for many is to laugh nervously, stay silent, or even play along to avoid making the atmosphere tense. But in that moment, you are accidentally teaching others that disrespecting you is acceptable. Stoicism teaches us about self-respect and setting clean boundaries. When you say, "I do not find that appropriate," the entire energy in the room will immediately change. This statement is not for arguing. It does not need a long explanation, and it is absolutely not an attack. It is simply a chalk line on the ground, clearly defining where politeness ends and where rudeness begins. Imagine you're at a dinner and someone starts a personal attack under the guise of a joke. Instead of reacting with anger, you stop for a moment, breathe, look them in the eye and say calmly, "I do not find that appropriate." No drama, no long speeches, just dignity. And here is the hidden benefit. When you are brave enough to say that, you are often indirectly allowing those around you to feel what they were originally afraid to say out loud. You are not just protecting yourself, you are protecting the moral standards of the whole group. In what situation have you ever said, "I do not find that appropriate"? Tell us briefly in the comments. That not only helps you reinforce your own calmness and bravery, but also supports me in continuing to create content that helps you build a calmer and more powerful life every day. Remember, a Stoic does not need to use violence or aggression to assert their position. A person with a solid inner self only needs a few right words to make the world around them adjust to them. The third phrase is one of the most important techniques to help you maintain control without needing a single shout. When the atmosphere starts to heat up, say, "Let us talk," when we can do so respectfully. This is the Stoic way to refuse chaos without running away from it. You know, in every conversation, there is always a point where the exchange of ideas turns into a war. Voices start to rise. People interrupt each other, and words are no longer a means of conveying information. They become weapons to cause harm. Most people, when in this situation, often make one of two big mistakes. Either they get caught up in the aggression of the other person and start shouting back, or they retreat in a feeling of helplessness and resentment. But this phrase creates a third option: control without conflict. You do not say this sentence with anger or as a threat. You say it like an unchanging law. Imagine a colleague trying to overwhelm you in the office. They speak over you and intentionally pressure you with a harsh attitude. Instead of trying to speak louder to compete, you maintain absolute silence. You wait for them to stop for a beat, then calmly say, "Let us talk," when we can do so respectfully. After that, the most important thing you need to do is stop. Do not say another word. That silence is not weakness. That silence is the most powerful message. You are sending a clear signal that I am not here to be dragged into your emotional mud. I am the one who sets the standard for this conversation. In that moment, the rules of the game completely change because you have refused to play on their terms. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the power of the mind lies in the fact that it can retreat into itself and maintain peace even when the outside world is collapsing. By delaying the conversation until both sides are calm, you not only protect your self-respect, but also give the other person a chance to look back at their own behavior. That is the true power of a Stoic soul, never letting external chaos invade the inner fortress. The fourth phrase touches on one of the most difficult, but also most liberating lessons of Stoicism: knowing when to walk away. That phrase is, "I would prefer to stop this exchange here." You need to understand a truth that not every battle is worth your energy, and not every argument is worth the precious time you have. In the world of communication, there are two main groups of people. The first group argues to learn and understand each other. The second group argues only to win at any cost. With the second group, they will constantly change targets, use fallacies, and dig deep into your emotions until you are exhausted. Stoic philosophy calls recognizing this the wisdom of protecting peace. This phrase is how you close the door without needing force to slam it hard. You say it without anger, without insult, without needing a long explanation at all. When you say this, you are not running away. On the contrary, you are choosing yourself over meaningless chaos. Imagine you are facing someone who constantly provokes you. They repeat the same old arguments and try to pull you into emotional mud. You feel the trap being set. Instead of stepping into it, you take a step back and say, I would prefer to stop this exchange here. Then you leave with your dignity intact. The truth is that walking away from disrespect is never a loss. It is an act of asserting that your life is too valuable to waste on noise that brings no benefit. Seneca once said that we are often hurt by our thoughts more than by reality. By ending a useless conversation, you are cutting off the flow of negative thoughts and keeping your mind clear. You master your time, and that is the greatest asset a Stoic possesses. The final phrase is the key for you to maintain inner independence when those around you try to pressure you with their personal opinions. That is your opinion, and I respect it, but I do not share it. In today's world, it seems everyone has an opinion on how you should live, how you should work, or even what you should think about an issue. Most of us often react in two ways. Either we argue for hours to prove we are right, or we bow our heads pretending to agree just to keep the peace. But the path of a Stoic is different. You can respect the right of others to have an opinion without needing to surrender yourself to them. This phrase is assertive but not hostile, polite but not submissive. Imagine a family member pressuring you to live by their standards, or a colleague insisting you work according to a method you know is ineffective. Instead of going deep into analyzing right and wrong or apologizing for thinking differently, you just calmly say, "That is your opinion and I respect it, but I do not share it." Why are these 5 phrases so effective? Because each phrase contains 3 core qualities of Stoicism. They separate emotion from reaction, they set boundaries without being aggressive, and they come from self-respect. And this is the most wonderful paradox. The less you chase the respect of others, the more clearly they feel it. Because they can feel that your calmness is real. They feel that you are not acting and you are not afraid. Respect is not something that can be forced by power. It is made of character. That character is built in small moments, the time you hold your ground without shouting, the time you draw a boundary without bitterness, and the time you refuse to trade your dignity for a momentary compliment. Comment below one phrase you choose this week and practice it just once. Not to win, but to become the kind of person who is not pulled into chaos. Because the strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest, but the one who can keep calm and still be extremely decisive. That is Stoic power, and that is what we build together here. Wish you a peaceful and steady day.